Hello, everybody. I just want to talk about a book that I'm reading that was suggested to all of her followers. An ASM artist that suggested Three Comrades. It was a book written by this German writer. Um, he was a World War I veteran, and so I mean, by the time World War II rolled around, or it was starting to the fervor was coming from political stuff, and there were people for the cause, people against it, and I guess Hitler was on the rise, and it was like 1938, I want to say, and that's when the book was supposed to be. Three comrades about three. I mean, the way the book was described to me, it was like a book about love and friendship. So it was. It's a really good book. I mean, it it's exactly as she described it, but it had a gut punch um, when I don't want to give it away in case you guys want to read it. I would really recommend reading it if you're into reading. But oh my god, what a gut punch! Like about midway through the book, something really bad happens to one of the characters. There's a love story. It's kind of just makes you cry what happens. It's just it's life. It's life is about things that happen in life can be bad, and we all not to give too much away, but it's sort of about mortality and immortality, and you know how long we live, how long we want to live, um, and just the sadness of not being able to control our fate, basically. And but in the end, I guess friendship is what it's all about, and you do anything for your friends. You do what you can do for your friends, um, and you're there for them to the bitter end, basically. And that's what this story is. The crux of it is. I'm almost done with the book. I'm more than halfway through. I could kind of see where it's going. Um, I read a little bit about it online. I didn't mean to, but I kind of did, and the waterworks. I cried. It was bad, and the past couple of days I've just been really depressed thinking about it, and um, I mean, my dad's like, well, why do you read books like that? Why do you read books that make you cry and that make you upset? And I'm like, because that's life. Life is about that. Life is sad sometimes, and things don't always turn out how we, my sister, for instance, has cancer. I'd like to think she's going to get better. Her cancer is getting smaller, but nothing's a guarantee in life, and that's life. Life throws you curveballs like all the time. I almost died of lithium poisoning and almost went into a coma and died. Or if I did survive the coma, I could have been a vegetable the rest of my life, and in a nursing home being taken care of, not knowing what the heck's going on. Um, it's just life just throws you these curveballs, and you just don't know. And that's why I read these books. That's why I see these movies. A movie that made me cry like a lot was The Notebook, in a similar way, but not quite as sad, but still pretty sad. And but again, great book, great book. I would highly recommend it if you want to. You end a chapter and you're like, oh, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next? So I would highly recommend it if you want a book like that. If you just want something interesting, like even now that the sad part came up, I still want to see how it ends. I want to see like how this all culminates and how it comes to an end. Um, and the writer was so turned off to war after World War I that he basically his books were banned in. He wrote All Quiet on the Western Front, and the Nazis banned his books, saying that they were anti-war, anti-German, anti-Nazi. He was, um, he's like, screw this, man. I'm going to Switzerland, which is a neutral country, and he lived there till the end of the war, and then he came to America, and he was married, and apparently got divorced. I don't know if she died or they got divorced, and then he ended up marrying some actress that my mom says was one of my grandfather's, my pop-pop's favorite actress, one of his favorite actresses, and he had a crush on her. So, um, very good book. The writer is very. Oh, and he even changed his name. Do I have the book here? No, the book. I thought it was over on my table over there, but it's actually it's in the living room, I think, or the TV room, or some stuff like that. So but he changed his name. He was so turned off to the whole German thing that he changed it from a German name to a French sounding name, and I don't remember like what his name is, but definitely a French sounding name. I don't blame him, but also like I'm part German. I'm not ashamed of who I am. My grandmother um delivered letters for the German army, and it is what it is. I think her brothers were in the Hitler Youth or something, or maybe they were too young. I don't know, but I mean, it is what it is. They were the people were brainwashed. The army was just doing the job. The real bad guys were the SS officers and Hitler and whatnot, but the soldiers was just doing a job. I mean, I'm not ashamed of having a grandmother that was on the German side, and then after the war, she worked for the U.S. Army, where she met my grandfather, my pop, and they fell in love when she was a secretary for the U.S. Army, and the rest is history. Came to America, had 4 kids. One of them was my mother, with 4 daughters, and that's 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 the rest of the history. And the other side of my family, my grandfather was in the 740th Tank Battalion, Daredevil Tankers, U.S. Army, and my on the other side, the one that married the German, my German grandmother, um, he was an infantry soldier in the U.S. Army. So, and then I had a great uncle, I think, a great uncle, who was um, in Italy. He was living in Italy, and he was making munitions for the Nazis, basically. And he used to joke with my grandfather, who was the tanker, and he drove tanks for the U.S. Army. And my grandfather would say, "You were making bullets and ammunition that was firing at my ass," and he's like, it was just kind of funny, but after the fact, So, it is what it is. It was a dark time for the world, and we go through these periods of unrest like every so often. I mean, right now we're kind of in an interesting period in American history with the alt-right conservatives and whatnot, and you know, racism on the rise, and hate, and people who are basically against the LGBTQ community, and who hate against certain religions and stuff. And so we're in an interesting period in history. I would say, like, they're in the minority, people that think that way. like most people are like pretty decent folk. I mean, there's quite a few moderate Republicans who are decent folk. I think they outnumber the alt right conservatives. And I am a liberal. I am a progressive liberal who leans Democrat on a lot of things. I vote Democrat, and I voted Obama twice. I voted Hillary. I voted um, Biden, and I don't like basically regret any of that. And I wanted Kamala to be president, but they don't let. It's not an open election down here, an open primary, so I couldn't vote for her. So she didn't win, and she ended up being vice president. So that's a nice little, you know, consolation prize, if you will. And but although I am liberal and vote Democrat, like most of the time, I voted Republican once. I voted for George W. Bush on one occasion. I think the second time I had to do it over again, I'd probably vote for Kerry. But at the time, I was very upset about, the Red Sox beating my Yankees, as selfish as that seems, and watching Kerry climb up the Green Monster kind of pissed me off. And this has gone through a bad part of my life. I don't want to get into why, but it was just a bad part of my life. And I voted George W. Bush for the only time I ever voted Republican. And if I should have voted the time before that for Al Gore. And what a cool guy he turned out to be. A Futurama fan. I love Futurama, and he won the Nobel Peace Prize for getting people aware of global warming. But deep down, although I vote Democrat and although I'm a liberal, I am bipartisan and would like the politicians on both sides to get along so that they can get stuff done in Washington. I think it's better to get along than not to get along. This divisiveness in politics right now is not really it's not really helping. It's counterproductive, and so that's kind of the dark period we're going through right now. That of uncertainty, like what's going to happen election time. A lot of crazy things are happening that wouldn't have been happening, say, back in the 90s or early 2000s. It just seems unfathomable. I mean, yeah, sure, it's not as bad as World War II, where they were putting people in concentration camps to kill them, but it is. I mean, they put people at the border of our country, near Mexico, in camps. I'm gonna make a part 2 of this. I'm low on storage, so hang with me, guys. So I'm gonna make a part 2 of this. Hold on there, guys. Part 2 coming.